أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين مؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So in our discussion of Khums Ahkam, we've basically reached a stage where throughout the year you've seen, okay, what incomes are liable for Khums, and then on your Khums date what expenses you can minus, and then last week we discussed in what scenarios you can minus also the amounts that you have in debt or you have as a loan. Today I want to first start with a principle known as the principle of jabr or compensation. So basically, if you understand this principle properly, this principle actually makes most people pay Khums much less than what people usually pay, in the sense that most people don't usually pay attention to this, and so they end up paying more than what is required for them. So the basis of this principle is as follows. Say for example somebody at the Khums date, they paid their Khums, and now the money that is remaining, we call that mukhammas wealth, meaning wealth that Khums is no longer applicable on. So say for example, okay, their mukhammas wealth is for example $1,000. And now throughout the year, they also keep getting new income, salary, gifts, whatnot. So the question somebody might ask is that, okay, now in the year when I have expenses, for example, I have a rent to pay, is it a must that I must, for example, pay my rent using this mukhammas wealth, or should I have to pay from the new income? Because basically what's going to happen, if I pay from the new income, then that's going to go away, right? And so when my next Khums date comes, let's say I don't have any new income, I'll just have this mukhammas wealth, I don't have to pay Khums on this again. But if I paid for my bills using this mukhammas wealth, then this new income would remain, and so on my Khums date next year, I would have to pay Khums. So somebody can say, okay, is it the case that, okay, that's why now I always have to pay my expenses using this mukhammas wealth, so that next year I pay Khums again? Or no, even if it's for the intention of running away from Khums, I'll say, you know what, any expenses I come, I'll pay using my new wealth, and this mukhammas wealth, let it be on the side, because I'll never have to pay Khums on it again. And the answer is yes, you can decide to do that. Even if it's to run away from Khums, you can say, you know what, all my expenses, any new money that I get, I'll use that for my expenses. This mukhammas wealth, I will not touch it, okay, because Khums will never be wajib on it again. I'll keep it for a rainy day, but I'll just keep using my new income, so I don't have to pay Khums again next year. So technically, that's fine. But the question then comes is that, okay, say for example, I'm a working person, and I paid my Khums, and now I have this mukhammas wealth, let's say $1,000. And example, let's say the day after my Khums date, I had to pay my rent. So I didn't have any other money, so I just used this mukhammas wealth, and I said, okay, I have to pay rent, $500 from here, rent. So this now, mukhammas became 500. And then throughout the year, I kept getting more money. Is it possible that I can now take some of that new money and replenish my mukhammas amount? So say I had a mukhammas pot, for example, of 1,000, which I used some of it for my expense. Can I, at the end of the year, take some of my new income, which I've not yet paid Khums on, and put it in this mukhammas pot and say, look, because I used some of this for my expenses, so I replenish this pot, and so the amount that I have to pay Khums on for my new income becomes less? And the answer is actually yes, that is what you can do, and that's what the whole principle of jabr or compensation is. So the principle is just say that, look, on your Khums date, we are going to calculate how much you paid last year, so how much did you start your mukhammas amount with, and today, for example, on your new Khums date, after 1 year, how much has your bank account, for example, increased? And basically what this principle says is that actually you don't pay Khums on the whole amount, you just pay Khums on the increase. Even if that original mukhammas wealth, you used it all in your expenses, and now this is fresh money, technically you can say, okay, this fresh one, the amount that I had mukhammas, I'm replenishing that pot. So if you understand this in theory, the calculations will become very easy. So if a person spends his mukhammas wealth, or even wealth that was never liable for Khums, such as mahar or inheritance, so this includes both mukhammas wealth, meaning you paid Khums on it, now it's Khums free, or even money that was never Khums liable in the first place, which we spoke about, like mahar or inheritance. Both cases, if a person spends this wealth on his expenses, can he compensate this loss from his new income and thus minus that amount before paying khums at the end of the year. And like I just explained, that for a working person, it's very easy. Okay, for a working person, the answer is simply yes, he can. Doesn't matter when, for example, he used his mukhammas wealth, when he got the income, as long as it's in the same year, he can do this compensation, he's fine. The only difficulty is for a non-working person. For a non-working person, he can compensate for this loss only if at the time of spending his mukhammas wealth, he had in his possession the new income. If, however, he spent his mukhammas wealth first, and after that he got new income, then he must pay khums on his new income on his khums date. So basically, for example, I'm a student, on my khums date I paid my khums, and now I'm left with, for example, $1,000 mukhammas. And now after my new year has started, and before I get anything, any gift, anything, before anything, I used part of this for my expenses. Okay, as a non-working person, since I've used this, and when I'm using it, I don't have any new income at that time, so okay, for me, I cannot apply this principle, and so basically what's gone is gone. Then on my next khums date, if I have any new income, I'll pay khums on that. But if no, when I was spending it, I already received a gift at that time, for example, of $100. But I was just using this other pot, for example, I was using 100 from here. So if the new income existed at the same time when I was using the mukhammas as a non-working person, then I can compensate, as we will show. But for working people, there is no this distinction between which one did you use first or no, doesn't matter. As long as it's within the year you spent, for example, from your mukhammas, you used it for your expenses, and then even if at the same time you had new income or later on you got new income, it doesn't matter, you can compensate. So how does this compensation work? So let me start with a simple example. So say, for example, this person, he paid his khums on 1st January, leaving him with $4,000 mukhammas wealth. So for the sake of ease, let's just talk about bank accounts. So I'll say, for example, okay, he had $4,000 in his bank account, mukhammas. Although technically this is not specific to wealth alone, like it's not money, you can even add the amount of his gifts, for example, what he paid on his khums date, on the food at home, clothes, everything will be included. But just to keep things easy, let's say, for example, he only had to pay khums on money, for example, in his bank. So he paid his khums, and now in his bank he has 4,000 mukhammas. During the year, he spent some of this for his expenses and gradually kept receiving other wealth as well. So throughout the year, let's say he only has one account. So he started with 4,000 mukhammas, then throughout the year he paid rent, electricity, transport, whatever, then he kept getting salary, he kept getting gifts. So basically the account kept fluctuating, up, down, up, down. In fact, just to make it clear, imagine if this 4,000, he spent it all at one go, it became zero, for example, in his expenses, and then something new came in. Even that's included in this, doesn't matter. So basically, throughout the year, he's fluctuating, he's receiving, he's paying, he's receiving, he's paying. On 1st January 2024, meaning the next year on his khums date, he calculated the value of all his remaining wealth, which was now $4,500. So what is his khums duty? So usually the people who don't know this principle, for example, they would say, okay, if I used all of that 4,000, okay, it's gone. Now this is 4,500 new money, so now I have to pay khums on the whole 4,500. But the answer is no. If you apply this principle, if you want to, okay, it's not wajib, okay? If you want to, so what this person will do, he says that because he's a working person, he can maintain the value of his initial mukhammas amount. So that initial amount was how much? 4,000 he started the year with. And now he says, okay, at the end of the year, I have 4,500 in my account, so he'll only pay khums on the extra. So 4,500 he ended with, he started with 4,000, so he's only made a gain of 500, so he'll only pay khums of 500, which is $100, if he's a working person. If he's a non-working person, then he can only compensate if he spent his mukhammas wealth after gaining his new income. So basically the point is this, that look, once you start your year with your mukhammas amount, you see at the end of the year, okay, what's the difference in your final end year calculation? You only pay khums on the difference. Now, just for clarity, it is not necessary to physically separate one's khums wealth from his new income. It is enough to note the value of the mukhammas amount and then pay khums on whatever goes beyond that amount on his next khums date. So some people, for example, they say that, okay, I've paid khums on this amount, it's a big amount, you know what, I'll keep this in a completely separate account or a completely separate bank. I don't want anything to mix. It's like, no, it's not necessary to do any of this. You mix, you don't mix, it doesn't make a difference. We're talking about values over here. Even if there's physical notes, you're mixing, you're not mixing, it doesn't make a difference. So you can choose to have just one bank account as well and make life easy and say, okay, look, on my Khums date last year, for example, I paid Khums. What was I left with? Fine, that's my starting amount. Then throughout the year, it goes up, down. Even if it goes to 0, then comes back up, it doesn't make a difference. So now, that's the theory. So in practical, how this works is, I've made a simple formula. If you apply this formula, it's just easier for you to calculate. But what I said right now was just the theory behind how this formula works. So the first thing is that this whole thing that I'm saying that you only pay on the difference, this is only in the case where you used the Mukhammas wealth for your expenses. This does not apply if, for example, that Mukhammas wealth was stolen, for example, or for example, you lost it. No, we're only talking in the case where you used your initial Mukhammas wealth for your expenses, health, traveling, whatever it is. If it's stolen, then sorry, you cannot do that. So now, okay, I used part of it for my expenses. Now, how do I calculate my Khums, my next year Khums? So the formula is going to involve two letters over here. S means the Mukhammas wealth that I start my year with, i.e. the money that remains after Khums. So say, for example, my Khums date, I've paid my Khums, okay? This I'll now call the remaining amount S. S meaning start of the year. So my last Khums date, for example, after I paid my Khums, what did I start my year with? That we'll call it S. And E is my end of year total. So today on my Khums date, what is my end of year total wealth? So everything that I have right now that is, for example, I'm just talking about bank account, let's say, to make things easy. So I say, okay, S, what did I start my bank account with last year after I paid Khums? And E is today, okay, on my Khums date, new year, how much do I have in my bank account today? So to calculate, you just need these two digits. You have to know last year, what did you start with? And this year on your Khums date today, how much do you have with you? So there are two scenarios that can happen. Either S is greater or equal to E, meaning I started the year with a higher amount, and now at the end of the year, my new Khums date, I'm at a lower amount. So now if I'm at a lower amount, this year, there is no Khums on me. So for example, let's say this person, he started the year with 5,000 Mukhammas, and throughout the year, he kept spending, he kept receiving, kept spending, kept receiving. Today on my Khums date, for example, his final sum at the end of the year was 4,000, okay? So it went up, down, up, down. On his Khums date, he was standing at 4,000. So because he started with 5,000, he is now at 4,000. So this year, there is no Khums on him. So there is no Khums on him. So in the case where what you start with is greater or equal to what you end with, if S is greater or equal to E, so 1, there is no Khums this year on you. And secondly, the amount that you have to remember for now next year, because for example, okay, today I said no Khums, so next year as well, what will be my starting one for this year? It'll be what I ended with this year. So it's just simply E. So for example, he started with 5,000, at the end of the year he had 4,000, Khums is 0, and now S2, meaning his new starting amount for basically for next year's Khums when he calculates, will just be 4,000. Now let's carry the example ahead. In the second year, he spent 3,000 on medical bills and had no further income. Okay, so he had no further income, and so the second year he spent, so remember he started the year with 4,000, he spent 3,000 on, let's say, medical bills. So now in the bank account, he's left with 1,000. So now, okay, he says at the end of the year, okay, I have 1,000. I started with 4,000. Again, this year as well, second year, no Khums. And now I'll say my S3, meaning to start for the next year, which I'll use to calculate on my next Khums date, my third year, will be 1,000. So this is the easiest. If your starting is greater or equal, these are the calculations, very easy. Slightly complicated is if E is greater than S, meaning the amount that you ended the year with is higher than what you had started with. So here, first thing is that Khums will be applicable on the difference. So I started with 5,000 Mukhammas. At the end of the year, I now have 7,000. Okay, only pay Khums on the difference of 2,000. The next year, what will be my next start year, S2 for next year, will be my end amount, for example, 7,000 minus the amount that I paid in Khums. So for example, let's say Mr. Alif started his year with $700 mukhammas, meaning after he paid khums, he was left with 700 in his bank. He spent all of it on his rent, and by the end of the year, he earned 800. So he started with 700, now he is on 800. So on his khums state, what does he do? He says, what's the difference? Difference is $100. I pay khums of 100, so only $20. So technically in his bank, he has 800, but he'll only pay khums $20. So he starts with 700, he ends with 800, khums is on the 100, which becomes $20. Okay, but what is going to be the S2 to start with next year? It will be his end year amount, which was 800 minus the amount that he paid on khums. So he paid $20 as khums, so 800 minus 20, 780. So now he'll put in his book that, okay, this year I'm starting now with 780. Okay, in the second year, he again spent all of his wealth. So he had 780 as the starting amount. He spent all of his wealth, but then received a gift of $1,000 just before his khums date. So now, at the end of the year, he has 1,000. So he started with 780, which is in fact just how much his bank account is. Because remember, he ended with 800 and he paid 20 in khums. So basically, he doesn't even need to calculate. He just says, okay, how much is my bank account? After I paid khums, how much was left? It was 780. So okay, this year now, I started with 780. I used it all. Then before my khums date, I got a $1,000 gift. So I am ending on 1,000. So between 780 and 1,000, the difference is 220. So I pay khums on 44. And what's left in my bank account will be 956. So I start now third year, for example, will be 956. These slides will be shared with you in case like you forget the formula, but I explained to you what in theory it was. It's just literally just compensating this mukhammas pot that you have. And so anyone who's like has any experience in accounting knows this is nothing complicated over here. It's very simple. The point is though that you can do this if you want. This is not something that last week I said about the loans, automatically the loan amount gets cut. If you're paying extra. This is basically just like a facility you have. If you want, you can apply this principle, and so then you would end up paying less. If you don't want, fine, then you pay on whatever, for example, is in your bank account, and you don't have to calculate, okay, what did I had last year and then this year. So this is a facility that you have. So now, basically, we're coming towards the end of the whole scenario. So now, okay, I calculated my total income. I minused my expenses that I used in the year. I minused, for example, my debt and loan amount. I minused, for example, the initial mukhammas amount that I started with this year. Okay, everything I've minused. Now, if I have anything, then, okay, I pay my khums. So now, when it comes to your khums date and you start paying your khums, the first thing is that upon arrival of the khums date, it is not permissible to use items upon which khums is liable. What this means is that, say for example, I have a gift at home, which we talked about, which conditions is wajib to pay khums. Say I have a gift at home, okay, come my khums date, I have to pay khums on it. Before I pay my khums, I cannot use that gift. You might say, why? What's the big deal? Basically, what's happening behind the scenes, behind this fatwa is that as soon as one's khums date comes, automatically you become a partner in that item with the owners of khums. So meaning the Sahmul Imam and the Sahmul Sada. You guys are now partners in this thing. So say for example, I got this gift, okay, I didn't use it throughout the year. As soon as my khums date comes, now I don't own 100% of this. 80% belongs to me and 20% belongs to Imam and the Sada. So now 20% belongs to them. Whenever you have any kind of partnership with anyone, you cannot use that item without gaining permission from them. So this 80% belongs to me, 20% belongs to them. And it's not the case that I can say, okay, I'll cut over here, this 80 is mine, this 20 is theirs. The type of partnership known over here is milk al-musha, meaning any point I touch my finger on, 80% of that point belongs to me, 20% belongs to the Imam and the Sada. So, my khums date has come, I cannot use this before I pay khums, because I have to give them their right. If I don't pay their right, now it becomes a case of ghasb. I'm using someone's property without their permission. So the primary ruling is that, okay, if khums has become wajib upon it, it is haram to use that item. So basically pay khums on time. But say for example, it's difficult, for example, whatever reason, logistically, it's difficult to pay khums on that day, something has come up. In this case, if I get permission from the wakil of the marja and say, for example, okay, today is my khums date, I had to pay, for example, this much, but I don't know, I'm stuck in traffic or bank account issues, whatever issues I have, please give me permission. After 3 days, for example, I'll pay it to you. Okay, if you've gotten permission, now you can use whatever you have to use. So the point is, pay khums on time. As soon as you delay, then it's haram to use that item unless you get permission to use. The second thing is obvious, that one can choose to pay their khums in cash, meaning the value of the khumsable item, which is what most people do, or give part of the item itself. So say, for example, I received a gift of, let's say a lady received a gift of 5 rings. And say, for example, all 5 rings are of equal value. And she didn't use it throughout the year. So now on her khums date, she can say, okay, I have 5 rings. Let me value the rings and say, okay, what's the value of 1/5? I can pay it in cash if I want. Or out of the 5 rings, because they have 5 equal value, I can actually just give 1 ring as khums. That's what the whole point is over here. It's not necessary to give in cash. Sometimes that item, if it's such that you can even give that item, if you can distribute it. So like, let's say, for example, a laptop, I can't like cut 1/5 of a laptop and give it. But say, for example, like jewelry, for example, okay, there are 5 equal, I can say, okay, I'll just take 1 ring and give it. Or for example, I have, for example, 5, let's say, new shirts that I haven't used, they're all equal value. I can choose to say, okay, I don't want to give money, instead I'll give 1 shirt. That's also fine, you can do that. That's up to you as well, you're allowed to do that. Should the asset be subject to khums based on its purchase value or its value on the day khums becomes obligatory or the day it is paid? So say, for example, let's say I bought an apartment as an investment. Obviously, if I was living in the apartment, there's no khums on the apartment because it's a personal expense. But it's for investment. I bought an apartment during the year for an investment. Now the question is, okay, obviously I have to pay khums on it. So what date will I value the apartment to pay khums? Is it the value of the apartment when I bought it, let's say in the middle of the year, or when khums becomes wajib upon it, say on my khums date, or the date is actually paid? So say, for example, I delayed paying khums, and then, for example, I paid 3 months after my khums date, and in 3 months the value of the apartment has gone up. So now I have 3 values: the value I bought it at, the value of the apartment on my khums date, the value of the apartment now when I want to pay if I've delayed. And the answer is the day it is paid. You pay the value of the item on the day it is paid, even if the value has increased many-fold. So, okay, too bad, you delayed, for example, paying your khums, and now the value of the apartment has gone up. Okay, too bad, you delayed, so now you pay on the current value. So basically the day you pay your khums, you check the value of those items at that time. Another question is, okay, how do I interact with people who don't pay khums? Very common question. People ask that, okay, oh, my dad, for example, doesn't pay khums, and now he's the one buying all the groceries at home. Can I eat the food at home? Or, for example, I'm going as a guest to someone's house, and I know that person doesn't pay khums, so can I, for example, use his house, use his water, eat his food? Or, for example, this person, for example, is giving me a gift, and I know he doesn't pay khums, so now, okay, he's given me this gift, what can I do with it? How do I interact with people who don't pay khums? According to Ayatollah Sistani, and most of the Maraji also say this with slight differences, he says, okay, in this case, you don't have any duty. You can use those things. You can go to that person's house. You can eat your dad's, for example, whatever groceries he's bought, that gift that's come to you. You don't have to pay khums on it, like immediately. So basically, you are free. You have no duty. It's that person's responsibility. They had to pay their khums. They did not pay. Okay, that's their responsibility. They will be answerable, but you are fine. You don't have to worry that, okay, this person's house I'm going to, he doesn't pay khums. It's fine. You can go, use whatever you want. That's his problem. And there's a whole list of narrations at the back of this about supposedly imams forgiving the Shias from paying khums. It's a whole detailed discussion. Basically, there are 2 or 3 narrations that clearly show that the reason why the imams were forgiving the Shias from paying khums was for this reason. What they meant was that when you are interacting with people who don't pay khums, it's not your duty to now pay khums on their behalf, or when any wealth that comes to you from them, you have to pay khums. So there are very many narrations about people basically asking the imams that, okay, for example, the Sunnis, they don't pay khums. Okay, so I go to his shop and I know this guy doesn't pay khums, or I go to his house. So now what do? I know for sure he's a Sunni, he doesn't pay khums. Imam says it's okay, we have forgiven the Shias on khums. Over here, forgiven the Shias on khums means you don't have to pay khums on his behalf. That's his problem. He has to answer on the day of judgment. You are allowed to use those items when they come to you. Okay, use it as normal, and so there is no problem as such. Now, the next, okay, the main thing that I wanted to discuss today was basically that there are certain cases where one must pay 25% instead of 20% of khums. So 25% is rub, or a quarter, and khums is 1/5. So basically, there are certain instances where instead of paying 1/5 or 20%, you actually have to pay 25%. And so many people, like when they hear this, they're like, okay, what is this? Like, this doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you for sure, there is not one single narration or verse that has that you have to pay a quarter or 20% or 25%. So it's not something that's in the narrations, and I'll show you. It's just simple maths how we get to this 1/4. So khums primarily applies to the actual item, the ayn, it's called in Arabic, but one can choose whether to pay khums from that item itself or give the equivalent in cash. So basically what I said before, that okay, either you pay the value in cash or you give the item, part of it itself. So this whole discussion comes when I am now going to give the khums in cash, which is what most people do. So now when I am now giving the khums in cash, there are three possible scenarios of how I will pay that khums. The first is that, for example, okay, I have this wealth, okay, it's my khums date, I've not paid khums on this. Now, khums is paid, the first option is khums is paid from other mukhammas wealth or from wealth that is not liable for khums. So this whole discussion is basically when I'm using another wealth to pay khums from this wealth. So for example, in my bank account, let's say I have this money, it's my khums date, but say I've put it in fixed deposit. Now I don't want to break the fixed deposit and then remove that and give khums. So what I'll do is, I'll be using another source to pay this khums. And this is where the discussion will come about paying a quarter. So this is the wealth that khums is liable upon. For whatever reason, I don't want to pay khums from this amount. Either I just want to save it, it's on fixed deposit, I can't access it, whatever. Okay, so I'm paying khums from another income that I have. Now this other income, if this other income itself is mukhammas, say for example, previous years I had paid khums on it, or it's wealth that was never liable for khums to be paid in the first place, it was mahar, it was inheritance, or for example, that this is income that I got this year, and so technically, even this one I have to pay khums on. So basically, I have this one that I put in my fixed deposit, $1,000 for example, and this year I have received, for example, another $500. So on my khums date, I'll say, okay, I have total 1,500 that I have to pay khums on. So this other wealth that I'm using to pay khums on, it's new income that I got in this year, but I have to pay khums on it today. On my khums date, this wealth is also liable for khums. So here is what the normal situation is that most people do. Here is no difficulty, it's normal. You pay the 20% khums, it's fine. Meaning you're paying khums for this using either wealth that is already mukhammas, khums was never applicable to begin with, or khums was wajib, but this year, it's new income of this year that on your khums date, you have to pay for this, so you're calculating both together. Which is the normal case, I said, fine, you pay normal khums only. The discussion comes though, if this wealth that I'm using to pay khums, so khums is paid from some other wealth, but that other wealth was liable for khums in previous years and had not yet been paid. So it's not like I got income this year and now I'm using it to pay my khums total. No, this was, for example, money that had been lying around for years, and for years I had never paid khums on it. So say, for example, this one, for example, I had kept it in a fixed deposit. I never knew the ahkam of khums, for example. It was there for like 2, 3, 5 years. Now it's come in my hands right now. And then I realized, okay, all these years I didn't pay khums on this. So any wealth that for years it's been with me, I never paid khums on it. So khums has been wajib upon it for years. Many years ago, khums was wajib upon it. Now, if I want to use this wealth to pay from my khums of this other wealth, remember that I said I put in fixed deposit this year, here is where I will pay a quarter instead of 1/5. Now as the question comes, okay, why? Why do I pay a quarter? Which narration has this? No, there's no narration that says a quarter. It's very simple maths. See, the point is that all these years you didn't pay khums on this wealth. So you cannot use this wealth for anything before you first pay khums on it. So the first duty you had was that, okay, this wealth, you had to pay khums on it, you didn't pay. So now your first duty was to pay khums on this. But you've not yet paid khums on it. So say for example, let's go to an example of fixed deposit. Over here I had $1,000 I put into fixed deposit. My khums date comes, okay, 1,000, I have to pay 200 of this. I don't want to break that fixed deposit. I come to this other wealth that I have over here. It was lying around for so many years. That one was how much? I had to pay 200 khums over there. So I pick up 200. I say, okay, can I pay this 200 as khums? We're like, no, hang on. As soon as you pick this 200 first, you have to pay khums over here. Because all these years, this money was lying around, you didn't pay khums on it. So your first job was to pay khums on this 200. So okay, I take out khums of 200. It becomes 160, for example. Okay, but this is now 160 in my hand, and I had to pay here 200. So so the point is, I must take out such a chunk over here that after I pay khums on it first, I'll be remaining with that 200 that I'll have to pay over there, which basically becomes a quarter. So if I removed, so here I had in my account, for example, 1,000 fixed deposit. A quarter of 1,000 is 250. Okay. So now I come to this wealth that was lying around for many years. Okay. I pick up 250. So now this wealth, 250, I have not yet paid khums on this. It was lying around for so many years. So my first job is pay khums of this 250. Okay. Khums of 250 is how much? 50. So pay khums 50. I'm left with how much? 200 clean wealth that I can now use to pay my khums of this fixed deposit. So therefore now that's how you get the whole number of a quarter. So a quarter is basically you're paying khums of this first, and then the remaining is enough to pay for your other khums. So let me give you an example. So say for example, this person bought a piece of land worth 100,000 as an investment using income that he gained during the year. So because it's investment, it's not considered as an expense, and now on his khums date, he has to pay khums of the land. So he bought the land for 100,000. Okay, let's say on his khums date, he says, okay, I have to pay khums of the land. Say the value of the land is still 100,000. Okay, so I have to pay $20,000 as khums. But he said, okay, where do I remove this 20,000 from? Oh yeah, I have this money in my bank, which I've been saving for many years, and all these years, I never paid khums on this money. So now, how much should I pay? Answer is, he must first remove the khums from his money that he had kept separate, and then use that mukhammas wealth to pay khums of the land. And in order to get 20,000 mukhammas, what will he do? He must take 25,000 from the money he had kept separate, pay 5,000 as khums for that now original 25,000, and then you're left with 20,000. You use that 20,000 to pay khums of the land. And so what ends up happening is that he's paying 25% of the value of the land. So this example was basically just a simple example of, okay, I had money lying around for many years that I did not pay khums on, and now I'm using it to pay khums. There are other more complicated examples which I will not delve into right now, not to confuse people, but basically other cases that come up is, for example, when you have some kind of like investment schemes and then you receive the money many years later. So I will leave that right now, and I will not mention those examples. But this was just a very simple example that, okay, because you had this wealth that was lying around for many years, you didn't pay khums on it. Now, as soon as you want to use any amount of wealth from that pot, first of all, you need to purify that amount that you want to use. Technically, you have to pay khums on the whole thing, okay? So you can even do that. You pay khums on the whole amount, and then just pay the khums amount. That would be normal. But here, for example, no, I don't. This is such a big pot, I don't want to pay the khums of the whole thing. Just the amount that I need to pay over here for my fixed deposit. So you end up paying rub, meaning 25% instead of 20%. Now, the third one. So this one as well, I will try and keep it simple, just so that you have an idea that, okay, when this scenario comes up, I will look into it more. because I feel like if I go into too much details, then it might confuse people, and these situations doesn't come up for everyone. So just briefly, is that if Khums is paid from some other wealth again, but that other wealth is income of this year, which is not yet liable for Khums. Basically, here we're using future income. So say, for example, okay, my Khums date is 1st January. So come 1st January, I said, okay, I had already put some money in fixed deposit. I have to pay that Khums, let's say $200, but I don't want to break the fixed deposit. So now, okay, I look towards new income, and let's say a few days have passed from my Khums date, okay? So I have to pay, my Khums date has passed, and now new income for this year. Say I got my salary of this year. So this is basically, as compared to the fixed deposit, you would say this is future income. Because that fixed deposit money was money of last year. This new salary that I got was money of this year. It's future income. So just January is the first month I've received my salary, for example, and here now I want to pay Khums. So here as well, barring some details, you would end up paying 25% as well. Initially I was going to like go through these details, but I feel like it might confuse people. So I'm just giving a general idea that, okay, if this ever happens to you, that let's say you are paying your Khums now, for example, after your date has passed, let's say, and you're using new money that was not there on your Khums date, then this situation can come up. The only thing that you have to remember is that you only have to consider paying a quarter or a rub when number one, that money or that item that you want to pay Khums on still exists with you. So for example, in our example, we put in a fixed deposit, you still own it. So this is the case is that one, that thing still exists with you, either it's money or it's an item, that thing still exists with you, and two, it has not been converted into an expense. For example, if it's a piece of land, it's not the case that you are now living on that land. In that case, there would be a case where you pay rub. So I'm going to skip this, but this will be there on the slides. If I feel like if I go into this right now, it might confuse everyone. So it will be there in the slides that will be shared. And if there are any questions, then specifically if this scenario comes up for you, then you can ask me. To end with today though, something that's more relevant to everyone is in the first session or the second session, I mentioned that just as we have shakiyat and namaz, we also have shakiyat of Khums. So these are basically general principles to use in doubt when it comes to Khums. If I doubt whether this specific wealth that I have is of the type that is liable for Khums or not, such as a doubt whether this wealth was from inheritance or salary. Say for example, I was cleaning my cupboard and I found a big chunk of cash. I'm like, oh, this cash, where did it come from? Either it could have been like inheritance, for example, let's say somebody passed away, I know I had some inheritance. Either this could be inheritance or it could be my salary, for example. I don't know. It could have been a source that if it was from that source, Khums would be wajib. Or it could be from a source that Khums was not wajib. Like either this was mahar or inheritance, for example. So now I'm not sure. Is this my salary or is this from inheritance? I'm not sure. I have a doubt. In this case, you don't pay Khums on that money. So this is the easiest. When in doubt whether this item, whether this wealth is of the type that is liable for Khums or not, you assume that, okay, Khums is not wajib upon it. Second doubt, I have a doubt whether this item has stayed with me for a year or not. So here, for example, let's say, remember I said for a non-working person, they can have a year for each item that they get. Each income that you get for a non-working person, you can count 1 year from that. So say for example, okay, I'm a student and I'm cleaning my cupboard and I see, for example, a new shirt that's there. I'm like, oh, I don't remember this shirt. When did I get it? I've not used it. If I used it, okay, no Khums. It's a new shirt. Has it been a year? If it's been a year, then I have to pay Khums on it. Or no, did I get it like 6 months ago? In which case, Khums is not wajib upon it. So if I doubt whether a year has passed on this item or not, you can assume a year has not yet passed. Okay. So if you want, you can use the shirt if you want. Okay. Don't pay Khums. Use the shirt. Keep it. Okay. Keep it until when? Until the time that I'm certain. Okay. Now for sure a year has passed. I don't remember when I got it, but for sure it's been more than a year. Okay, if you're sure it's been more than a year, then you pay khums on it. But you're in doubt, has it been a year, not been a year? Again, as well, as you can assume that a year has not yet passed. The third doubt is, I doubt whether I have already paid khums on this item or not. Say, for example, again, I'm cleaning my cupboard. I found a new perfume bottle, fresh, brand new. I know it's lasted for more than a year in my house. I don't know, last year on my home state, did I pay khums on this gift or no? I doubt whether I've already paid khums on this item or not. The answer is here, you must pay khums. Perfume is an example. Same thing, for example, you can say even like bank account, cash, same thing. Basically, you put your hand on it, you're like, okay, I don't know. Had I already paid khums on it? I know khums was wajib upon it. It was not of the first type. It's not like inheritance or mahar. I know it was an income or a gift, for example. And I know that it had stayed for a year as well. But I'm only doubting that, did I pay khums on this on my khums date or not? Okay. First of all, practically speaking, like, try and find out. Yeah, if you have any way of investigating, checking your accounts, whatever, if you can do that and solve your doubt, fine, solve your doubt. The point is, all these are cases where you can't solve your doubt. Okay, I'm not sure, I can't remember. Then in this case, yes, you will have to pay khums on it. Even if in reality it means you're paying khums on it twice, that's fine. You have to pay khums on it. So if I doubt whether I've already paid khums on this item or not, I must pay khums. The fourth doubt, I doubt whether I have used this item during the year or I have not used the item. So again, it's my khums date, for example. Practical example, let's say, okay, I have a dress shirt. I'm like, okay, did I use this in the year? If I used it and I wore it, there's no khums on it. But if I didn't use it, then it's my khums date and I have to pay khums on it. So the doubt is, did I use this item or did I not use it? I'm not sure. Okay, first try, remember, ask your friends, whatever. If you're still in doubt, then again over here as well, you must pay khums on it. So if you doubt whether I used the item or I did not use the item, then you assume that you did not use the item and you must pay khums on it. The last doubt is, doubt whether this wealth is from previous years which had already been paid khums on, or is income of this year which is khumsable. So say, for example, again, I was going through my cupboard or I found a stack of cash, and now I'm doubting that if this wealth was from previous years, I know I had paid khums on it. But if it was this year's income, which is I'm supposed to pay khums on it, then I'm not going to pay khums on it. So now the doubt is, okay, had I already paid khums on it in previous years, or this is income of this year, which is khumsable. In this case, you come to a settlement with a wakil. So it's called a musalihat. Basically, you go to the wakil and you say, look, I found this, for example, cash, or this cash, for example, and I'm not sure. Either I had already paid khums on it because it was income from previous years and I know I had paid khums then. So either I had already paid khums on it, or it's income of this year, new, which I have not paid khums on. In this case, you come to a settlement with a wakil. And the settlement process is actually like very easy. So basically, different like marajas have given their wukala different methods of coming to a settlement. It seems like what Adil Sistani has told his wukala is that, okay, if somebody comes to you with such a scenario, you tell them that, okay, between 0 to 100%, how much estimate or probability do you have that this item, this money has khums? So for example, so the wakil will ask you, okay, this money that you have, to what extent, like guess, 30%, 40%, 50%, how sure are you that, okay, this has khums on it? So, I think, for example, let's say 40%, I think that this has khums. So, okay, fine, I'll take your word for 40%. So you pay khums of 40%. That's how they do a settlement. So a settlement basically means coming to a middle ground, and that's like the system that most of the wukalas are told to use. So that solves the issue of doubts in khums. There are like 2 or 3 other doubts, but I feel again those are more complicated and they might make people confused. So I think these are the most like practical and relevant doubts that apply to people. And so that stops the session for today. There is only one more session, which will be the next session, which will be about khums for business owners. But other than that, for normal people who are not business owners, their normal day-to-day expenses, whatever, hopefully I feel like I've covered most of the discussions. There are other, of course, ahkam that you can discuss. Okay, who do I give khums to, and which sadat can I give to? Like that's not the scope of this discussion. Maybe some other time. But for now, this was the main discussion for most people. So, like I said, the only last session will be khums on for business owners. When you pay khums on stock, what about if you took a loan for your business? That will come in the last session. But other than that, this would conclude these sessions. If there are any other questions. Any questions on the ladies' side? No. Gents, questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
You did mention something about that increase and decrease by the day my Khums date comes.
Yeah.
It was about something, I can't recall exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And you said if it is increased, I'll have to pay Khums on the new value.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, by the day I want to pay,
Yeah.
the value has decreased.
Yeah.
What do I pay on Khums now?
So, from what I remember, I believe it's actually still, even in that case, you pay even if it's gone down. I have to reconfirm that, but I'm 80% sure that even if it goes down, it's the same case. The day you pay is when you check, but I'll have to reconfirm that. Yeah. Any other question, ladies? No? Question?
I remember, like I think in the last two, like not the last session, but the one before that, when you're paying using cash for an asset, do you have to do that thing of like the one like the gift you get 4 rings, and if then you buy that, it's like if you give the 1 ring, it's okay. If you don't give if you pay with cash, it's like you've bought that piece and then.
No, that doesn't apply over here. I know what you're talking about. That's a discussion for appreciation in the value. So no, that doesn't apply over here. No, it doesn't apply over here.
Okay. Yeah. So once you give khums on, like for example, if you have 5 gold rings, and you use cash to pay for the value of 1, your 5 are sorted.
Yeah. So that's all now mukhammas, and then like we discussed, right? If when do you pay khums on the appreciation? Okay. The only time would be, for example, okay, now those 5 rings, when you sell them, if you sell them at a higher price, and you make a profit of the selling, and that profit remains with you until your khums date, so then you'd pay on it. That's the only case that would be relevant over here.
Okay.
Okay, if no other questions, we can finish over here. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.